So to now just name what's in the box. So for Kinetica, so again, the three main characteristics, as I've been stressing here, GPU accelerated, okay? It is a distributed, so you can cluster it. It scales out horizontally, and then leverages memory. So those three characteristics are, the main themes. Also in the box, we provide, again, leveraging the GPUs to do a natural language processing, full text search. So you don't need a separate system, to build a search index. Native geospatial support and IP address support. So if you're doing using this in anomaly detection in a cybersecurity context, native IP addresses. Real-time data handlers. The previous retailing use case, they had a requirement. They came to us and said, we need you to do 300 million events a minute. We did 4 billion events per minute on ingestion. So we have very strong real-time data handlers, massively parallel ingestion across the cluster. Okay, on the lower left, as we work through what's in the box, having so much compute available means that there's no typical tuning or indexing or partitioning. So one of the only knobs you have to try to optimize a large, big data system for query performance is what's your partition strategy. And you say a year, month, day, for example, or timestamps, right? You bucket it by that. That's a physical partitioning of data so that if your queries align on those dimensions, then you can have a good experience, good SLA. But if your queries are orthogonal, you're trying to query against on a different dimension, you're trying to group by something that crosses partitions, then you have the dreaded table scan. And so with Kinetica, with so much compute and with data in memory, a table scan is not a bad thing. We store data in a columnar format in memory in small chunks and feed it in parallel to the thousands of cores in the GPUs. So recently, just back of the napkin calculation, I was on an 8-node cluster that had 2 NVIDIA GPUs each, had 8,000 cores per node, so 64,000 GPU cores working on data in memory. There's no need to create, indexes or partitions or to do any particular tuning there. So it's a beast, on the compute side. The scale out then is just predictable. So you want to cut your SLA in half, just scale horizontally. You need to hit a particular data ingestion messages per second, then again, just linear scale out. There's deep integration with all of the Hadoop-friendly open source frameworks, MapReduce, Spark, NiFi, Cumulo, HBase, H2O, Tableau, Kibana, Caravel, ODBC, JDBC, and a distributed visualization pipeline built in. So that's there's a lot of stuff in the box. The retail customer who championed us, their enterprise architecture labeled this as a next generation converged data infrastructure because there was so much just in the single Kinetica install. I'll mention on a sort of techie note, it's a single RPM and a single config file to get this cluster up and running. So there's a massive amount of functionality, but without the layer cake of configs required on other systems.